Hello, welcome to Oceanic Oracle. My name is Ari and today I'm going to be going through my unread TBR. So if you see my shelves looking a bit different in a second, you'll know why. Hello, I'm back, and as you can see, my shelves look a bit different, particularly my classics shelf. I'm going to be putting all of these books back afterwards anyway. I forgot to explain in the first section, this video is for like my reference as to how many books I actually have that on my shelves that I have not read. So it's like I'm calling myself out for buying these books and then not reading all of them, I guess. But I have read a decent amount. I mean, you can see my stack here. I have read like quite a bit that's on here. Anyway, this is a video for my reference and to let you know how many books I have read versus I have not read that I own. These are all physical books, by the way. This isn't including anything that I own on my Kindle. I guess I'm going to start with the classics because I have a whole stack that is just the classics, and then I can pop them away and then we can move on. So the first classic on here is Anna Karenina. I have actually started this one. As you can see, I have annotated a bit. It's interesting to say the least. I'll say that. It is interesting. I'm about 150 pages in, but I'm probably going to have to restart this, and I think I'm going to actually listen to this on audiobook while I'm reading it because it's easier. Big Russian classic that I definitely need to read. Next one is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is the book that for book club this month, so I am going to be knocking this out pretty soon. I did actually take part in Frankenstein when I was at school, like secondary school. I was in Frankenstein, so I do know the story, but I thought it would be interesting to actually read Frankenstein because I want to read one of the great female authors and one of the big female science fiction writers. I'm going to be picking up Frankenstein. That's going to be coming in my wrap up this month, so keep an eye out for that. Next one on here is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I'm actually really interested in this. It sort of feels like an autumn read for me. It's about a girl named Rebecca who was married to this man, and it's the tale told from his second wife's perspective. Sorry, I've got a cat moving around behind me. There was an adaptation of this that came out in 2020, I believe. I haven't seen that. I want to read the book first, and I want to read something by Daphne du Maurier, so this is on my to read pile. Next we have a science fiction classic, Dune. The movie, as I'm sure most people are aware, the movie came out last year. Again, I want to read before I watch. That's just the sort of person I am. This is one of my dad's favourite books as well, and he has recommended it to me, so I'm going to be picking that up. I don't know when I draw the prompt in my TBR game, but I'm interested. It's one of the big things in science fiction, and it's created the genre that there is now. Like it says on the back, before The Matrix, before Star Wars, before Ender's Game and Necromancer, there was Dune. Going to be picking that up when I can. The next book on here, or the next classic, is Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. This is a copy that I got from my grandparents. I'm really interested in reading this as it's actually a classic that's about a woman in olden times, and it's written from, Thomas Hardy was a man, so I'm interested to see like the perception of a woman who could do everything, you know. I'm just interested. This is supposed to be quite good. I haven't read any Thomas Harding, and this is the one that my mum recommends, so I'm going to be reading that. Next one on here is a Charlotte Bronte that I haven't read, and that is Villette. This I picked up in a charity shop when I was in the UK. I think I got it for £1. I do like the Bronte sisters and I want to read more from them. I really like Anne Bronte's writing, but Anne Bronte only wrote 2 books, I believe. I have read Agnes Grey and it's one of my favourites. I am interested to see what Charlotte does in this one. I'm interested to see a different side of Charlotte Bronte's writing, and I can't wait to pick it up at some point. The next book is probably one of the more famous ones that I have on my list, and it is The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. As I'm sure many people know, this is a Sherlock Holmes book. I haven't read it. I've seen the Sherlock adaptation for the BBC, and I have seen past renditions of different things from Sherlock Holmes, so I'm not entirely in the dark, but I am interested to actually read this book. And also this this penguin cloth bound edition is just like, I just love it, and it just feels so nice in my hands. It feels like a proper classic, if you know what I mean. Anyway, that's on my shelf as well. The next book, I have no idea when I'm actually going to read, and I've actually heard some pretty bad stuff about this author in particular. This is Tender as the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. His most famous work is, as you probably know, The Great Gatsby. I'm just like holding off because I've heard some pretty rough things about it, and I'm not a big fan of it. Anyway, next on to my more miniature classics. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Jules Verne book I have on here, which is Journey to the Centre of the Earth. I have seen the film for this. It starred Josh Hutcherson. I watched that when I was in my Josh Hutcherson phase, when I was like in year 9. God, I must have been 13 or 14. But anyway, I'm interested to read the classic. I do like Jules Verne's works. I have listened to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Granted, it was a long time ago. But yeah, I am interested in picking that up at some point and reading more ancient science fiction. Anyway, the next book on here is like, I have read all of Jane Austen's for 6 books. I mean, you can see there's Mansfield Park, Pride and Prejudice, and the others are in my miniature classics. But the one that I actually want to talk about is her, like, Sanditon, Lady Susan, and the History of England. This is a compilation of small short stories that Jane Austen wrote in her youth, as well as her last unpublished novel, which is Sanditon. I like Jane Austen's writing, and I want to see, like, it's nice to see the journey that she's taken to become the author that she is. And there we go. That is the last Jane Austen novel or Jane Austen compilation that I haven't read and I'm interested in reading. Now we're on to my ancient classics, so my proper Greek and Roman classics, I guess, but like most of these are Greek. Okay, I'll start off with the Roman one. I haven't read the Aeneid, which is by Virgil. This is about the origin and the setup of Rome. It's similar to the Odyssey and the Iliad in that respect, but it's how Rome came to be. It follows Aeneas, and it talks about how Rome was set up like after the Iliad. I'm interested to read it when I can, so there we go. The next book on here is Sappho's Stung with Love, Poems and Fragments. I have talked about this quite recently in my haul that I got from Christmas. I'm excited to pick this up. This is a poetry collection. I think most people are sort of aware of Sappho. I want to try and read more poetry. I'm quite bad at reading poetry, so maybe reading this will be a stepping stone into it for me. Next book is Socrates Philocrates. Again, this is this is a play, and it's about the Battle for Troy. It's about a soldier who is separated before the battle and his journey, so I'm interested to pick that up. I don't know when I will pick it up, but I mean, we'll see with my game, won't we? The next book on here is the Iliad. Now, I have read sections of this. I haven't read it in its entirety. For my classics course, we read the Odyssey instead, which you can see back there. But I have not read the Iliad in its entirety. I am interested in reading it. I have read sections of it. I haven't sat down and read everything. This book follows the last year in the Battle for Troy. It was a 10-year war, so this follows year number 10 of their battle. I am interested to seeing what it's like in all of its like completeness, so there we go. The last book that's on here is something that I actually treasure a lot, and it is Herodotus's Histories. I haven't read the book in its entirety. If you don't know who Herodotus was, the whole study of history sort of stems from him. Herodotus was the first proper ancient historian. He went in and wrote about all the things that were believed to have happened in the lead up to the modern day. I have read small sections. I have read about the Battle of the Marathon in here. I want to try reading it all at some point. I might just have to separate it into the different books because, again, this book is set up into like different books. So you can read one book and it can be the Theogony and then continue on and on. So there we go. That is the last classic. So now I'm just going to pop them all back. So I'll chat to you in a bit. Okay, so as you can see, my classics are now back on the shelf. I guess this is a section in of itself, and it's the sort of middle grade / child fiction. The one book that I have on here that I haven't read that is on my shelves, it's like I have my small section way up the top. That's because it's sort of like my own special library and stuff that I read in my childhood. But the one book I have on there is Tales from Moomin Valley. I have not read this, at least not that I can remember. I have read Finn Family Moomin Troll, Commenting Moomin Land, that sort of thing, and I believe this is a follow-on. I'm not 100% sure. If you don't know, I am half Finnish. My family, one of the things that we take pride in as like from my Finnish side is Moomin Troll and stuff related to it. So I actually have quite a lot of like Moomin things. I have a Snork Maiden mug, I have Moomin bags, I have a Moomin umbrella and everything. So I actually want to pick this up. I don't know when I'll pick it up, but I'm looking forward to reading it at some point. So there we go. That's my single like middle grade / child's literature. There we go. Okay, so the next section I'm going to talk about are my adult / new adult romances that I haven't read. These are all fairly new and I have talked about them in my book haul. First book is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I've talked about this. This is a queer sapphic romance. It's about these two girls. One of them is stuck in a time loop. She's been stuck since the 1970s. And it's about their journey and like August, this girl's crush on, I think her name's Jane? Yes, Jane. August's crush on Jane, who is stuck on this train in this time loop. So there we go. I'm supposed to be reading that this month. We'll have to see if I get around to it. Next book on here is It Happened One Summer. This was a Christmas present from my sister. It's about a socialite and it's about her sort of being sent off to a town in Washington to sort of like get herself together, I guess. It's about their romance. It's just a normal adult romance by Tessa Bailey, and I like Tessa Bailey's writing, so I'm looking forward to picking this up. And the last book on here from my adult romances that I haven't read that I own physical copies of is The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. I love Helen Huang. I have talked about her quite a lot, or at least I think I've talked about her a lot. I enjoy her writing. Helen Huang is a Vietnamese autistic author, and she writes about her experience as a Vietnamese woman, as well as like in her first book in particular, there is a large focus. Well, in her first and second book, there's a large focus on autism and Asperger's, and I really enjoyed her writing. I'm looking forward to picking this up. I'm looking forward to reading this. I guess those are my romances that I haven't read. The next stack I'm going through is sort of my miscellaneous adult fiction. I have some science fiction in here. I have some fantasy and have some literary fiction. I'll start off with my science fiction, I guess. Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is about necromancers, I believe, like intergalactic necromancers. I've heard some good things about it. I think it's also sapphic, so there's that in there as well if you're looking for sapphic books. Yeah, I'm interested to read it. I haven't really felt like science fiction, but I've heard some decent things about this book. I'm interested to see what she does with necromancers in space. Yeah, I'll see when I pick that up. I guess we'll go with my fantasy books next. The next one is The Witcher, The Last Witch. This is the introduction to The Witcher. I really like the Witcher TV show. Don't come for me, I love Henry Cavill. I really enjoyed the TV show, and I want to read about where The Witcher comes from, so I'm interested to see what this does, if I'm interested in continuing the series. If I continue, depending on how big the books are, I might swap to using my Kindle instead, because I just prefer I just prefer reading thicker books on my Kindle because it's easier for me. Anyway, there we go. The next book is The Poppy War. I am really excited to read this. This is actually one of the books I'm really interested in. This book is rooted in Chinese history. Its author, R.F. Kuang. R.F. Kuang is a Chinese history historian. She studied it. She studied history at university. She specialised in Chinese history. There are some trigger warnings for this, so you have to be in the right mindset. I did have it on a TBR in another month, but I just wasn't feeling it, so I'm hoping to pick this up at some point this year and then continuing on, because now my bookshop is actually stocking all the books in the series, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward to reading this. The last book I have on this sort of miscellaneous list is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I'm intrigued to read this. It came out in 2020. This is a book about two black sisters, and they can both pass as white, so white passing. Stella and Desiree are identical twins. They grew up together in a small southern black community until age 16, where they run away. One of the sisters goes into sort of like the white community and passes as white, and no one knows that she's actually black. And then the other sister continues living in black communities, and I believe this is a story talking about their different lives and the stuff that happened to them. So I am interested in reading this. I have heard pretty good reviews. One of my goals this year is to read more literary fiction, and this is definitely on the shelf for that, so hopefully I'll pick this up sometime soon. I forgot to add one more book to my adult miscellaneous because I'm like that, and that is A Pale View of Hills. This is Kato Ishiguro's first book. I was giving this for Christmas. This is an adult book. It was just in my YA stack, which is what I was sorting. But yes, that is also a book in this. And that is it for the miscellaneous adult stuff. Welcome to the YA section of this video, where I go through all the stuff that's on my middle shelf that I haven't read. I mean, it's my rainbow shelf for a reason. I love my books on there. But yes, I guess we will start with the sort of like contemporary books. First one being an Alice Oseman that I haven't read, and that is Radio Silence. I've heard great things about this. Again, I just haven't read it. There we go. Book number one. The next book that I have on here is Super Fake Love Song. Again, this should be a fun YA contemporary romance with music, so looking forward to reading that at some point. Last one for the YA contemporaries is K-Pop Confidential. This is about K-pop and the society around that. I'm interested to see where it goes and whether or not I like it. So there we go. Those are my three YA contemporaries. Now on to my giant stack of YA sci-fi and fantasy. The first one I'm going to start with is more younger YA, and that is Once Upon a Broken Heart. I am excited to pick this up. This is by Stephanie Garbert, and it's about a girl whose one true love, or at least who she thinks is her one true love, is engaged to another person, so she consorts this evil Prince of Hearts. And he just asks for 3 kisses, but she realizes that he wants more than, well, 3 kisses is like more than she bargains for. I'm interested to see where it goes. Hopefully I like it. But yeah, I'm excited to read this. I believe it takes place in the same universe as her Caraval series, and I have not read those. Maybe if I like this book, I'll be inspired to go and pick those up, but we'll see. Next book on here is something that I got from my sister. It was a late Christmas present. It arrived this year instead of last, and it is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. I love these violent delights, so I wanted to finish the series, and like this is one of the books that I'm so excited to read. As soon as I can pick up like a retelling card, I'm going to be picking this up. But I just love, like, can you see the dragon embossed on it? I've grown up in Asia, so dragons are always a big thing, and I'm hoping if I play my cards right, I'll be able to pick up this book hopefully next month, but we'll see. I'm very excited, and there we go. That's another one on my to read. Next on my to read on my own TBR is The Theft of Sunlight. This is the sequel to Thorn. It takes place in the same universe. It doesn't follow the same characters. I read Thorn in November and I really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to picking this up. Plus, it's a very floppy book. That is one of the sequels in the series to Thorn. It takes place in the same universe. Excited to pick it up. Next book on here is The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon. We don't have very many Samantha Shannons here, so I have to wait and order these. So I need to finish this before I order the next book in the series. I love The Bone Season. I left that in the UK, but I wish I had it with me. But yeah, there we go. That is the next book that I need to read in the Bone Season series. On a similar note of series that I haven't finished, The Kingdom of Copper. I started this, like, I think I read a page or something. Yeah, I didn't read very far into this, but I want to continue on with the Daevabad trilogy, so I need to read this before I pick up the last book in the series. So yeah, looking forward to picking that up at some point. Another one on here is Witches Steeped in Gold. I actually started reading this in May last year and I just didn't continue it. I don't know why. My brain just wasn't in like the fantasy mood. Like, there are times where my brain's like, I want to read YA fantasy, and like there are certain books that I need to read at certain times in the year. I definitely need to read this in, like, I think March, Hong Kong March, because it just has that feeling, and like it matches with the setting. But we'll see. And finally, the last few books in here, well, the last 3 books in this whole entire list are my Leigh Bardugo books that I haven't finished. First is King of Scars. It's in the King of Scars duology, along with Rule of Wolves. And last but not least is the book that I got from my sisters for, well, one of my sisters for Christmas. And it is The Language of Thorns, which is a collection of short stories related to the Grishaverse. That's all the physical owned books that I have not read yet. If needed, I will be consulting this video back if I'm struggling to find a book to read. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. If you want more bookish content, my social media links are linked in the description, so be sure to check me out on any of those platforms if you want. I hope you're having a wonderful day or night, depending on when you're watching this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.